Welcome to Monarchist Minute. I'm William Stout here with Victor Smith, Charles York, and our four guest stars, Bubba, Trad, Krieger, and Koshing. Today we have a wonderful array of topics from the topic we didn't get to last week, which is if you could talk to any historical monarch, what would you ask him? To moving on to a YouGov poll, which shows that monarchism has risen 50% in popularity since last recorded. And we'll finish off our final topic, if we still have time this evening, with Victory in Europe Day. Take it away, Charles.
All right. Ifin, I could talk to any monarch and ask him a question. That is a difficult question because there are so many good ones to choose from. But I guess because insert Jacobite meme here, and probably ask James II how you found it in your heart not to want to murder your daughter and son-in-law because he didn't want to do that. I think so. How he had the restraint when like imagine. Imagine like your son-in-law does like the literal worst thing he could do, second to killing you, and you and you don't dream about just like wringing his neck. I mean, oh, such a great guy, and that's well, I don't think that's necessarily why, but James II is a servant of God, so we should. But his cause for canonization was derailed by the French Revolution because it was primarily going on in France because that's where he spent his days. Yeah, so another thing ruined by the French Revolution. So I guess we're going to be bouncing around random people. Eeny, meeny, miny, Krieger.
Oh, shoot, I thought I have time to prepare.
Charles, I just want to say when I said take it away, Charles, I was going to see if you were going to finish anything I missed in the intro. I didn't know you were just going to jump right in, honestly.
Well, you know
I'm
what? Why
raring to
not?
go.
No,
I'm already in third gear. Let's do this.
Why not hop into it and just start, chit-chatting it? I mean, never had a slower start, so. But Krieger clearly thought we'd be going in the order listed on screen, and so he was not ready. I am ready,
Well,
however.
I wasn't ready either, so
Well,
that's
you got
going to
put
be
on
the
the
theme
spot,
for
but
tonight.
that's your job. You're the host. Anyway, since while he's thinking, I can go if you wish.
Fine.
Yeah. So if I had to speak to any monarch, it would be Emperor and King Charles V of the Holy Roman Emperor. He was the Holy Roman Emperor, and King of Spain, of course. And I think it would be interesting to really get his perspective on things because, I mean, he ruled half of Europe alone. And after fighting wars with the French and other groups that didn't like him, he then just, said, whatever, I'm going to go live in a monastery. And I mean, I just wanted to know kind of what he was thinking and how he did it all. It would be so very interesting.
Wubba.
Okay, so if I'm trying to choose between two, and that would be Louis XIV of France, the Sun King. Regardless that he spoke French, just because he's regarded as one of the greatest French monarchs. So either him or King David from the Bible for religious reasons, and that's the only reason there for King David. But those are my two. I can't just choose between.
Time's up, Krieger.
Oh no. Gotta go with Constantine the 11th of the Byzantine Empire. He's a pretty cool dude. Kind of want to get into that mindset of like, you've got like one city left. You've got like a grillion Turks.
All right, Toshin. Will.
Well, I sat down and I've been thinking about this long and hard, and what I decided was Cyrus the Great.
Ooh, curious.
And I have several reasons, but my primary reason is that Cyrus can be said to be the first true emperor in a sense. He was the first person to make a large federalized multi-ethnic multinational state.
My
And
kids
he
start
said
going off
much
like
of the
that.
standards came up with much of the concepts that his successors, both in a literal sense and in a legacy sense, would build upon. Like Alexander the Great would base his empire off of Persian administration. That would inspire Rome, and Rome would inspire most of Western civilization. And so I really want to sit down with Cyrus the Great and talk about the struggles and what he had to go through from a political perspective to basically build the world's first true empire. And there is a religious factor too, because Cyrus the Great is also one of the few I don't know if I would call Zoroastrian necessarily pagan, considering they're monotheistic too. They're kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Abrahamic adjacent. I don't know how to describe
No, they're
them.
just lame. Okay.
Okay. Anyway, let me finish. But he's one of the few non-Jewish people in the Old Testament that the Bible looks fondly upon, and that states that God Himself favored him. And so, especially when it comes to Daniel, I want to know from his perspective, the perspective of someone who would be considered a Gentile or a non believer at the time, what he felt when he opened the door and saw Daniel unharmed in the lion's den. I would like to hear that from his perspective, because I feel like that would be a very interesting conversation.
And then Koshin, since your mic is working now.
Yeah, you guys can hear me now, right?
Yep.
Yes,
I
we
just
can
want
hear you.
to. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. So, am I allowed to like tell them stuff or like give them advice? Is this like a you can change history type of idea?
No,
Because
this
if
isn't.
that
You can ask him, and then he gets knocked out and doesn't remember your conversation, kind of thing.
okay, in that case, probably the last king of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, whose name escapes me at the moment, and I probably wouldn't be able to pronounce if I remembered it, because I think that the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth system was very interesting, and I mean it was very different from what basically every other monarchy in Europe at the time was doing, and so as a result, I find that a significant point of interest, and I would love to be able to talk to him about that and ask him about it.
Stanisław the Second, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, that's it.
It might be Vladislav, I believe is the pronunciation, but that is semantics.
No, that's phonetics.
It's semantics, and I don't want to hear any more about it.
I
Anyway.
want to know how it's spelled, because knowing Polish, it probably has a bunch of letters that aren't pronounced.
It probably does. Anyway, it seems our vice chancellor is back. Will. Not Will, Victor. I'm
Oh
sleepy
my!
today. I'm sleepy today. I apologize.
Yes, you are sleepy. Yes, you very much are sleepy. Well, I would want to meet Oliver Cromwell so I can give
That's
him a
not a
good
monarch.
But
swift
he's
punch
not
in
a
the face.
king! He is not a king!
Y'all interrupted me before I could get to the punchline.
Oh.
I said I
Sorry.
would want to meet Oliver Cromwell so I could punch him in the face. And then I would go meet with an actual monarch.
Bonnie Prince
Uh,
Charlie.
no, not Bonnie Prince. Well, actually,
I mean, is it fair to call him a monarch because he never actually got crowned?
well, if I may, I would like to pick his brain about what happened in 1745. I'd like to pick his brain about what went into his decision making and why he made some of the decisions that he did. But
I mean, 1745 went pretty great. It was just 1746 that went not.
When he realized the French weren't coming to help him out.
well, that's all semantics. But I would want to, and this is actually a very oddball choice, but Brian Boru,
Who?
and there's a reason for this. I would want to pick Brian Boru's brain about what he thinks of modern Ireland and any chances of a monarchist restoration on the Emerald Isle.
Okay, I'm gonna feel bad for asking, but who's Brian Baru?
Last High King of Ireland.
Ah. Baru doesn't really sound like a very Irish name. That's interesting. It almost sounds French.
I'm
And
sure
now
it has
you
a
at last
spelling that
realize
makes.
the sad truth.
I'm sure it has a spelling that makes absolutely no sense in an English context, proving that it is in fact Celtic.
That's how
Yeah,
that's how
that's
Gaelic
spelling
Well,
languages work.
I mean, in
Also-
fairness, French spelling often doesn't make sense anglicized because we
Okay.
don't bother to anglicize it. We just
Quick one or the other question for the panel. Which would you rather spend your life learning, French or Welsh?
French is actually useful.
Yeah, no, Welsh is ridiculous.
Okay,
Gonna be easier.
I mean,
Welsh is
I
beautiful.
will
found
say,
it. Okay, I found it. First of all, it's not Boru, it's Boruma Maccentig. Senatig.
And
you see,
there
the
you
great
go.
thing about Irish
Yeah.
is that no matter how you pronounce it, it's
You're
wrong.
wrong.
Because
Yeah,
there's
no.
because there's like four or
Yes.
five different main like dialects within Ireland itself. So that's
But see,
so that's the great thing. You don't have to. There's no stress. There's no. It's not like
You know-
ecclesiastical Latin where there's definitive rules. Like
You
you can
know,
pronounce it however
and
you
C
want.
would be
there's
pronounced as
going
a
to be
K.
some IRA dude who has an aneurysm for what I'm saying, but the more I look at the Irish and the Celtic languages, the more I realize they should be thanking us for making them go extinct.
No, yeah, like I will never accept that the Welsh belief that the letter W is a vowel.
Okay,
Wait,
real quick.
what?
Just to
Hey,
What?
Look up the name Llewellyn.
Hey,
Yeah, in Welsh,
oh,
in Welsh, there's 7 vowels: A, E, I, O, U, Y, and W.
and sometimes Y and
Why?
W, or just Y and W and
Because that's
Y and
how.
W,
Well, hold
Y
on,
and
hold
W,
on,
they're always vowels.
hold
This
on, hold
is
on.
almost
because
as bad
it's
as the
because
Chinese stealing Latin characters and then
It's-
assigning none of the sounds they have to them.
it's because the Latins enforced their script onto the British Isles. The Celtic languages were fine with using Ogham, and then they had to use Latin. I'm sorry, I'm a language nerd, so go ahead.
Okay,
be fair,
yes,
though,
but
other
still, you can adapt the Latin alphabet so it actually makes sense.
Other
relative
languages
to the
have
letter.
adapted. Other languages have adapted the Latin alphabet and still not had to use consonants as vowels.
Except
mean,
for
so-
German seeming to want to turn W's into V's and V's into F's.
Yeah, I actually know a bit about this. The issue basically winds up being that you'll get a people that adapt an alphabet, and then the way they talk changes, but the way they spell doesn't. So then the way they spell a sound winds up being different than the way everybody else spells it.
Well, I know the reason why it's wine in English and German is because there used to not be a V in Latin and it was all W.
Return.
But I like
More
this
language.
tangent.
I love languages.
Yeah, I
Don't
love
care.
languages too, but we can talk
Languages.
about the non-proper name of God that we're not.
Well, to be fair, this also isn't the language podcast.
Right.
Look,
This
the
isn't.
Monarchist Minute
In
has a time-honored
monarchist
tradition of
podcast,
discussing
which-
literally
Yeah.
anything except monarchism. So I
And
mean,
Never
which
forget
one?
that's
And
fair.
okay, well,
which
if
of
we're
these,
playing the monarch,
monarchs is the most interesting to you? That isn't your own. Which of these monarchs that was listed was the most interesting to you? That's not your own.
Constantine the 11th, definitely.
ancient
That was
guy because I
strange.
still Maintain empire, different, but okay. Oh.
Okay,
Someone's
but
gonna train.
now I'm gonna ask the real question: which one of these monarchs would actually talk to us?
Oh, none.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would be rolling in with a team shirt, T-shirt that's like, King James or bust, King James II or bust, because like I'm a second, I mean I'm really Charles York II because my dad's Charles York. That's a lie. I mean my pen name is Charles York. So I'm a second. Okay. Anyways, so we'd be like buddies by default. That's how this works, right? Like all
Well, I'll just
all the seconds in
I
history
mean,
got along with each other. All the thirds got along with each other. Like everyone, right? That's how this works.
I'll
if
just
we're
take
being realistic, we wouldn't even be able to talk to anyone who doesn't speak English.
We said no language barrier.
Well, okay, then why are we talking about which one of them would talk to us?
Well,
No,
no,
'cause,
like
like, they
which one
dignify
would
us
like
for the
bear to stand
conversation.
with our
Yeah.
modern stupidity in a conversation?
And no, that's what we meant.
I'll just take King Louis XIV a whole gallon of
I'm
sweet tea
just poking
as
fun,
a party
guys.
gift.
If you take King Louis XIV a whole gallon of sweet tea, I'm pretty sure you'd send him into cardiac arrest.
What is this magical elixir?
I
Yeah,
would have
well,
killed the king.
Diabetes.
he was the guy in stockings and high heels. So anyway,
Apparently, he was
Touche.
also, I think if I remember correctly, he helped popularize hot chocolate too.
that and makeup. Yeah, he was an interesting character to say the least.
I wonder what he thinks
No
of
other
that.
type
Ah,
of king
shoot.
either.
You know what? I actually have I have a different guy I don't want to talk to now that I think about it. Alexander the
Nick?
Great sounds like basically one of the most interesting people who's ever lived, ever. So he'd probably be a
If-
blast to talk to.
I'm
If
gonna
I were to
conquer
talk to
half.
Alexander the Great, it would have to be over beers, considering his notorious drinking problem.
Yeah, that's also the thing, is he'd probably be the most, out of like anybody mentioned so far, he'd probably be the most
Ooh.
accessible to a normal person.
I was about to say that brings us to a different question. What monarch do you think would drink you under the table?
Ah, well, there you go.
Oh.
Truly any of them.
Now,
Yeah.
if we're getting
To
into
answer your question
the,
about which monarch would drink me under the table, the answer is yes.
I think it depends on which culture these monarchs came from, because if we're talking like maybe some upper class, like some very, very proper monarchs from like stereotypically sophisticated and refined countries like France or maybe some of the East Asian monarchies, I'm pretty sure I might be able to drink with them. Now, if we're talking someone like Harold Hardrada, a literal Viking, no, it's not happening.
Yeah.
I mean,
Or
this
Prince Vladimir, I think it was Vladimir III, who literally said the reason he became Christian is because drink is the joy of the Russian.
I mean, I think. I mean, let's see. This is the thing. I don't know because I'm not 21 yet. But historically, my family. Let's see. This is a tale. My uncle was talking with like two of our relatives, and they went through like a case of beer in like 30 minutes. Like he had like one or two, and like it is, I mean, half of my family is recovering alcoholic. So I think that unless like the gene skipped and I'm just a complete lightweight and don't know it, I think I could beat a fair number. But I
Charles,
don't intend to get drunk because willingly getting drunk is a mortal sin. Anyways,
Charles, I have to burst your bubble, but I come from a family of alcoholics too, and yeah, no, being a lightweight is not genetic. That's a learned behavior. You only get good at drinking by drinking.
Hey man, Pennsylvania Irish Catholics, like there's a level there for my family, but I mean I'm not even 18, so I there's no way I'm drinking alcohol, but I think when it comes to just how generally enjoyable a monarch would be, which I think is mostly the point of the drinking under the table thing, I feel that the more north you go, the more like let me correct myself. The further away from Central Europe you get, the better fun you have with a monarch, and the closer to Central Europe, the more proper.
And I think that has more to do with the fact that the closer you get to the Mediterranean, the more Rome-inspired it is, and the Greco-Romans were kind of uppity snobs.
But
I
they
think
took
I
it
think
along.
that is part of it, because that's also the thing with Alexander is Macedon was sort of on the periphery of the Greek world as opposed to being in the middle of it, which is why Alexander the Great was much more of the, oh yeah, no, I go down and I drink with the soldiers type of monarch, as opposed to not being that, which from my understanding most of the other Greek monarchs would have been.
I feel that Septimius Severus would also do that very well, or Maximinus Trax.
You know, I'm kind of disappointed with all the Catholics in this podcast. I'm surprised no one said any of the 200 popes we've had, since they are technically
No.
monarchs.
Because popes aren't monarchs.
Yes,
they
are.
are
They are
technically.
monarchs.
I mean, they're not hereditary.
There's technically monarchs as Kim Jong-un is a monarch.
No.
Okay,
So
No,
as
Okay, no, I got it, Charles. No, the Pope officially holds the title of King of the Vatican, and before the Vatican existed, it was King of the Papal States. So yes, they are monarchs.
Oh,
and it
all
may
right.
not
Well,
be.
that's weird.
It may not be an unbroken bloodline by
But by that definition,
by that
the Polish
definition, but it is
Lithuanian-
succession of office of one person. So it's not the
I mean-
same, but it's
Well, he mentioned Stanislaus of Poland, Lithuania. So
there you go.
clearly, it's not the election thing. That's
Yeah, no. The way I would define it, if it's fine to get a bit off topic again, is the way I would generally conceive it is that there has to be some hereditary element in there somewhere. The reason why it would apply to like the Holy Roman Empire or the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth is because you were still electing somebody from the nobility. There was still an element of
And they're all brothers in Christ.
in the view of the Catholic Church and the papacy as a whole, it's not a direct blood relation, though in medieval Italy there was. Basically, the line that you follow, the hereditary line that you follow, isn't a bloodline; it's an apostolic line, right? It's the connection to the apostles that they draw on instead of connection by blood. Anyway, but yeah, as for the previous topic, I actually don't have much more to say on that, other than I think
a pope. I mean, to answer Bo's, disappointment. I mean, popes, because like the thing is with popes, like you probably talk to them more about a question of religion more than temporal governance, because generally speaking, with a few exceptions, we don't remember what the popes did in terms of like highway robbery and like trying to stop highway robbery. Like, what was each pope's solution to stopping banditry in Italy? Like, we remember, the Denzinger isn't full of Pope Paul III's decree declaring safe passage to Naples, if such a thing existed, right? It's all the religious stuff. So I guess that's why.
Well, now that you mention it, when it comes to temporal, the one pope who had a massive temporal effect, I'd say, was Leo the Great, who turned Attila the Hun away from Rome. No one knows what he said to Attila. I'd love to know what he said.
Always have been in Latin.
Okay, you know what? If we're gonna talk about popes specifically, I would love to have been able to talk to Pope Paul V. He was the pope when Japan sent its first expedition to Europe in order to meet with specifically the Pope.
Curious.
I have I just thought of another one I'd like to do, and it wouldn't necessarily be talk, but I would love to go back in time and play a game of chess with King, what's his name? The Leper King. I can't remember.
Baldwin the Fourth. Yep, Baldwin the Fourth, King of Jerusalem.
I mean, yeah, of course, I don't know if he actually liked playing chess, but that's how he's usually depicted because of the movie Kingdom of Heaven.
He did in history.
Hmm. He seems like an interesting character I'd want to meet.
But I think it is just about time we moved on. Anyone else have anything?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
What was our next topic? It was
It was
Oh,
the YouGov poll.
yes, the YouGov poll. I think that'd be great to talk
The
about.
YouGov poll with some pretty promising numbers overall. 12% of the Americans surveyed. This is a significant sample size because it's above 30, which is, well, the number that is used by scientists. 12%, margin of error might be a little big, but 12% of all the people surveyed said that they thought monarchy would be a good idea. With an outsized portion, about like 20, some crazy percentage, 27% of those being 18 to 29-year-old, 20% of them being Hispanic or Latino, and I think like 20-something percent of them being black.
and I still think the funniest part is YouGov says most Americans are not interested in monarchy, whereas we who follow these statistics know that is still 50% positive growth from the last time they checked.
I will
And it
say,
is
so I do have
incredibly
one question though.
What's up?
Was this survey like a cell survey, like people just go to the YouGov website to take part in surveys, or were they like calling people or walking on the street? I mean, because like if I think there would be a bias if politically interested people were surveyed, because your average Joe probably is like, monarchy. I was taught in public school that George III was a bad man. You know,
If I
I don't know
remember
why.
correctly,
I
and
can
I
answer
might
that.
be wrong,
Okay,
Go
way
ahead,
you can
Chris.
answer that.
Right.
the
So
way
I've found the article on YouGov America talking about this, and it says methodology. Respondents were selected from YouGov's opt-in panel using sample matching. A random sample stratified by gender, age, race, education, geographic region, and voter registration was selected from the 2019 American Community Survey. The sample was weighted according to gender, age, race, education, 2020 election turnout, and presidential vote, baseline party identification, and current voter registration status. So yeah, kind of. You had to have like opted in to YouGov sending you stuff, but then they like tried to get a they tried to take like the amount of people they
A representative
sent
sample.
the survey to, yeah, and make like it proportionally equivalent to U.S. data that they had, the like latest U.S. data that they had for the population overall, along gender, age, race, political. So, like, I mean, look, I'm not a statistician. I don't know if that's a good methodology or not, but it doesn't like immediately set off like massive red flags. But at the same time, you had to be opted into YouGov, so I don't know.
Well, that doesn't necessarily mean it wasn't, like they're advertising, do you support monarchy? Take poll now. It's just like, hey, would you like to participate in the survey?
Right, because in the same thing they were talking about, I also remember a little bit of the article, I brushed over it before we started this. They were also talking about the coronation, so it wasn't just about monarchy in America.
Yeah, this is the third question following two others that are regarding American views on King Charles III and the British royal family as a whole.
Right. So this poll was basically done in conjunction with the coronation, and we're picking out one question based off of that. But still, if you look at the numbers, it is very surprising what a monarchist base in America looks like. We would like to speak with these people and figure out like how you came to be monarchists and what we can do to reach out to you.
And yeah, and I agree, because to be perfectly honest, we understand that our ideology is a little, lack of a better term, odd. especially given the norms of politics in America and stuff. So I always did like finding people who became monarchists and ask them why.
So if I could come in on here,
Please.
I'd like to say that I basically agree with everything you just said. Yeah, like people should engage, explain what brought them to the position. But I do feel like this needs to be approached with a bit of skepticism. Unfortunately, it suggests that the highest, the party with the most amount of monarchists is the Democrats, and maybe it's just my own political biases, but I find that
Hard to believe.
unlikely. Yes, I find that hard to believe. I find the Democrats in the current political climate to be of the two parties to be the one more likely to have people in it whose political views are essentially intractably incompatible with the idea of having a monarchy.
If I may, I think the reason why Democrats are higher is because it reflects the two minority interests in monarchy, because those minorities also traditionally and statistically are more likely to vote Democrat. But I would also like to point out that Hispanics especially also fit into being culturally Catholic, and I'm pretty sure everyone on this server already knows that being culturally Catholic and monarchism seem to have a very, very large overlap. Saying this is one of like the dozen or so Protestants in the server.
I suppose that's fair because according to so the poll I'm looking at on the website is slightly different. There's some breakdowns on the on what you've posted in the server that is not on what I was looking at on the website, and it does look like racial minorities are less likely to see it as a bad thing. So that would indicate a way in which it leans more towards Democrats. Although I still find that odd. The other thing I would have to say though is I've seen some stuff that would seem to suggest that YouGov is not always massively reliable just in general. Although the areas in which I've seen that would seem to be focused more on the subject of support for government policies than anything like this. So I don't know.
What I would like to see from the survey is I'd like to see a religious breakdown. And that could also help with the whole, like what I said about the Hispanic minority voting Democrat, but also having that culturally Catholic element, and see if that culturally Catholic element does actually affect the support or not. But they
Yes, if
didn't
anyone from YouGov is listening to this, first of all, thank you for asking the question. Second of all, next time you ask a question about monarchy, get a religious breakdown too. Because
Or
if it's anything, if a religious breakdown is a lot like our server, then it would tell us a lot about who these what we're calling closet monarchists are.
Yes,
okay,
we're asking you to do our what's the word I'm looking for? I know there's a
For us?
specific
Job for us.
I wouldn't say job, but there's a specific
work?
term in business for researching one's target demographic, and I can't remember the term. Never mind, it's not important.
Okay, well here. Let's conduct a new poll right now. Trad, do you support monarchy?
No, I absolutely hate monarchy. Yes, I support
Okay,
monarchy.
Wubba, do you support monarchy?
Yes.
Koshin, do you support monarchy?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, myself, do I support monarchy? Yeah. Will, do you support monarchy?
I wouldn't be wasting my Friday nights here if I didn't.
Victor, do you support monarchy?
Obviously.
Okay, cool. 100% of those surveyed support monarchy. Therefore, the United States is vastly unrepresentative. The United States government is unrepresentative of the American people and should capitulate itself in the next election. Okay.
Victor asked for a religious breakdown. You didn't ask our religion.
Okay. Trad, what are you? Catholic?
Catholic.
Wubba, what are you? Catholic?
Sure. Yeah.
Koshin, what are you? Catholic? We know he is. Me, what am I? Catholic? Yeah. Will, what are you? Protestant? Okay. So, shoot. How do I do percentage for 6 in my head? Math was never.
It's an incomplete.
one-
I think it's
It's
What?
0.16.
a repeating
I think.
decimal. You
0.15.
can't do it in your head.
Okay. Well, 5 out of 6.
times 5.
5 out of 6.
Uh,
5 out of 6 Americans are apparently Catholic, according to this survey. And
So Charles, if I may, what
Yeah.
is the point of you doing this?
I'm conducting a survey for the American people to show, because this is the Gov poll was incomplete, and so I am doing a new survey right now. This is a legitimate survey. No one can question my methods. And a sample size of 6 people on a Monarchist podcast is, of course, representative of the average American population. Anyone who says otherwise is an enemy of the national counter-revolution.
Right. Let's do a quick update about the coronation. Remember last week how we talked about the peers wouldn't be allowed to wear the fancy robes? Well, guess what? There was a 180-degree turn. They are allowed to wear the robes and the coronets.
Wonderful.
Awesome.
And The Guardian had some snide article about it. I got alerted of it while being on the Twitter earlier.
I bet I can
And,
read it word for word without having ever read it. Wah, wah, monarchy, wah.
Basically. And all I gotta say is, and I think I said this as a response to the tweet, it's amazing how some people complain about an event that hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, well, people be
And
doing
some
that.
of the people complain. Here's the best part: they do not know the crown's relationship with paying taxes,
Well, to
and
be fair,
they'll just assume that the king is not paying for this and the taxpayer is paying for it.
Well, to be fair, I've had a lot of conversations with British monarchists about this, and the British school system or British news and everything in general does a very, very, very lazy or poor job actually explaining how the Crown Estate works. So, quite frankly, I can't blame people in Britain for not understanding how the Crown Estate works.
Well, for our
the same
British
time-
audience, if we have a British audience, please
We
explain how
do.
the Crown Estate works.
What, me? Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right, so basically, the British government and the institution of monarchy owns properties. You probably have heard of these before: Duchy of Lancaster and places like that, and as well as buildings like Buckingham Palace,
Windsor Castle,
Windsor Castle.
Balmoral.
Yeah, all of these things. These are property of the Crown institution, and they make money. They make money in tourism. They make money in other ways. They're assets. And they're not technically owned by the royal family, but they're owned by the institution that they're a part of.
Well,
And
technically, Balmoral is owned by the king because he inherited it from the queen, but I know what you're talking about.
And so it is the job of the royal family to administer and maintain these properties. And they have a strict yearly budget to do it, and their living expenses also comes from this budget. This budget is the crown allowance. And this is calculated from, I forget the exact percent, but it's a fraction of the money that the crown estate makes a year, and the rest of it goes into the pocket of the British government.
All I
And
know is that
might
recently
I
it was.
mention, oh, who was talking?
It was Bubba.
All I know is that it was recently upped because of the Buckingham Palace renovations, but I'm not
And
exactly sure how much.
anywho, the point is that the royal family actually has no control over how much money they get. In fact, the same money that comes out of their living expenses is also the money that is used to maintain buildings like Windsor Castle and Buckingham Palace. Now, you know who does have control of how much money the royals get?
Parliament.
Yes, your duly elected representatives in parliament that would be the people who are in charge of your country while you're whining about the royal family.
Not just that,
Maybe
but the royal
since
family brings in 3 times as much as what they take, is what they spend.
Oh, but in order to play devil's advocate, you could also say that if the monarchy were abolished tomorrow, that money would not be lost. The money that would be brought in would still be brought in because people still want to see the places.
It kind of loses its appeal. I mean, obviously, England and France are direct comparisons because not every American speaks the whole.
Actually,
uh,
I'm sorry, but that might not be true. It technically belongs to the crown. Wouldn't it stay with them even if the monarchy is abolished?
that is
I
Well,
mean,
actually an
you're essentially
interesting, if I remember
this is
correctly.
essentially the equivalent of saying, well, we could steal the factory from the guy who owns the factory and it'll still make the same amount of money. And it's like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
you could do that, but that would be theft.
Ever since George III lost control of the colonies, he had to figure out a new way to get money. And so what he did was he basically, like, his money was fine. It was the money for the actual nation. What he did was he said to Parliament, okay, I will basically sign this agreement with you where all of the money I make off of my land goes to you, but you also give me money every year so that I can live, And they said, cool, and every single king and or queen since then has signed that agreement. So, in the time since then, and soon enough, King Charles will have or has signed an agreement that basically says the same thing that it said back when King George III signed it. And it makes way more money, like just the lands themselves make way more money than the royals could ever hope to spend.
And I just gotta say that I've actually watched a short video and involved British Republicans, and they actually went over the topic of what happens to the British Crown estate if the monarchy were ever abolished. And basically it goes down to there would be a bit of a custody battle between Parliament and the royal family on what they get to keep and what is considered a national landmark that belongs to the nation as a whole.
It would go
And
to
So
the
here's the thing.
basically it comes down to whether they've stuffed the judges full of Republicans or not.
I
yeah,
mean,
entirely.
Basically,
honestly, in any scenario where the British royal family is kicked out of its position, the courts are going to be completely stacked against it, and it will be just as illegitimate as when Charles I was brought before a tribunal. Because, excuse me, in whose name are those courts convened?
I look. I don't agree with the idea that a monarch can't be brought to trial. I think that's.
I mean, if he wants to be brought to trial, why not? But if
No,
he doesn't want to be brought to trial, why?
because the monarch isn't God. That's
Yeah,
why.
he's not
There
God, but
are
he's
there are rules that precede the existence and concept of a monarchy.
yeah, and those
And
would be
the
the
monarch
divine
himself.
laws, not made up charges like he was mean to Parliament.
It's 15%. The royals get 15%. of the whatever the money was. So
Move that. Move 15. Move the decimal place over 1, so now it's 150%. Well, that's not moving the decimal place. That's changing the value. Yeah, the British people should be paying an extra 50%. No, I'm joking. But no, really, the royal family should get 100% of what its estates are worth, and Parliament just has to cry in a corner.
Okay, so
I
now here's my
remember
question.
specifically in Prince Harry's new book. I had a friend who read it, and she told me, according to Prince Harry, the British public pays the cost of a pint of beer a year just for the monarchy. That's all it costs. A pint.
So if they're uncomfortable. Sorry, I think I might have been cutting somebody off.
Sorry. So here's my question, because I believe it was Victor who sort of started us on this topic of taxes. Do you actually think that the issue that the Guardian has with the British monarchy revolves around supporting them with taxes?
I think that is the way in which they are framing it for the article, but the Guardian, I can't speak to every single person who works for the Guardian, but that particular author probably wants to see the monarchy abolished.
If I remember
I
correctly,
would agree
the
with that.
Guardian is basically like the British equivalent of Vice or BuzzFeed, so
Let's what are we gonna do?
That was more or less the point I was trying to make.
Of course. So has the Crown Estate thing been explained fully?
I
yeah.
suppose.
Okay, so in another coronation update, in a round of ecumenism, the Archbishop of Westminster will be taking part in the ceremony tomorrow as we record. If you're listening on YouTube, it'll be on Monday. So the Archbishop of Westminster will be the first Catholic clergyman to participate in the coronation of a British monarch since James II.
If I remember correctly, it was an Anglican service. There was a Catholic thing, a Catholic mass that accompanied it after it happened. If I remember correctly.
Interesting.
And this is something that he was getting really hung up over at the time, and I think he asked the Pope what to do because he wasn't particularly fond of Anglican services for obvious reasons.
And what did the Pope counsel him to do?
He said it's fine, just don't take communion, quote unquote, from the Anglicans. I don't know if he did
Okay.
that. I think, yeah, that's from Charles Columbus secondhand. I haven't read it firsthand document, so you know.
That is very interesting. Thank you for that information. So the Archbishop of Westminster will be involved, as well as I think we talked about this last week, but the chrism oil, which is used for the coronation of the British monarch because papal permission was granted to use chrism oil instead of the Earl of Catechumens for both the King of England and the King of Scotland. So it stands to reason that the King of Britain would also get that same privilege. But the chrism oil was consecrated by the Orthodox Patriarch of Jerusalem with the Anglican bishop that resides there too. So in the Catholic sense, it is valid chrism. And there is a hope among certain Catholics, like Coulomb, that the presence of valid chrism will impart some grace on King Charles III.
I
Well,
mean,
we already knew King Charles III was going to be kind of a based monarch because of some of the things he did when he was still a prince. particularly
Some
his love
some
and
people would disagree with you and call him a a shill for the World Economic Forum.
oh, wah. Of course, all rich people know each other. They're rich. There's
Yes,
not a
of course
lot
they
of
do.
them.
Yes, of course they do.
The dude
So
spent his days funding traditional architecture and growing his own food.
that is very true. All right. What was the oh gosh, the final topic for tonight?
That was it.
That was it. Okay.
No. We were going to talk about Victory in Europe Day.
Oh,
Oh,
right.
VE Day. Yes. So today, as you listen to this podcast on YouTube, Monday, if you're with us live, is Victory in Europe Day, commemorating the end of the European theater of World War II.
It was what was the weather like in continental Europe? I mean, obviously it's an entire continent, so it probably varied from place to place. But
I
like, what was
have
the average
absolutely
temperature?
no idea.
I don't know. I
Cloudy
mean,
with a chance of Nazi tears.
no. I mean, it's it really it's sort of weird because we like to segment the war in our minds, you know, VE Day, and then we like to imagine that everything was calm and just getting ready for Cold War mode, but everyone was still kind of freaking out. Like I think we yielded. The American army had advanced further. Well, the Western armies had advanced further than what the border would end up being, so we yielded territory to the Soviets, which is never a good idea. And then, of course, East Germany would have been pretty dang small considering how the Soviets partitioned it. But no, I mean it's really weird to think like how it was after, because there were still, you know, thousands of troops who were still necessary to ensure that, you know, society didn't collapse, because, you know, once your government goes away, you know, there's it's a little hard
And
to
of
maintain
course,
law and order.
there was the terrifying, the dangerous werewolf brigades with their some 20-some decade-year-old rifles carried by 60-year-old men.
Well, I'm
How
not saying that. I mean,
terrifying.
I mean, it's just the natural thing. Like, I mean, the local, like, if the American, if all the armies just like said, "Okay, boys, it's time to go home now." Like, can you imagine how the local police departments, like, there's no broader national infrastructure, so unless everyone was really good at gardening, and the gardens hadn't been destroyed in an RAF raid, um, uh, you know, you're probably not going to get food. Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. The aftermath of a war is never as easy as Hoi 4 makes it out to be, is what I'm saying. There was still a lot of work to be done, but
Aforementioned why we're talking about World War II. Why?
what?
Why?
What did you say?
Hoi 4 got mentioned while we're talking about World War II. That did not just happen on this podcast.
It did. I am sick and tired of everyone assuming that because you play Hoi 4, you're a LARPer. I used to play Hoi 4 quite
I'm
frequently
not
until my computer.
assuming you're a LARPer. I'm just saying it's cringeworthy to mention Hoi 4 in a conversation about World War II.
Oh, come on. Okay, look. It's
Anyway, we would
okay
like
to
to.
hold on. It is okay to acknowledge it's okay to acknowledge Hoi 4 if you're talking about how Hoi 4 is or isn't a perfect reflection of reality, because Hoi 4, admittedly, is the closest thing we're going to get to real World War II, unless someone drafts us into World War III. World leaders, please don't do it. Okay. So, and then of course we can do all sort of like self-deprecating remarks, like when you can how you can micromanage the entire German Soviet front, but you can't manage a conversation with a girl, or similar statements.
No, Hoi 4 is not an accurate depiction of World War II because paratroopers are actually successful in Hoi 4.
You can't. I think you can't actually do the whole paratrooper London bit anymore, as far as. But No, I spent most of my time in
I
Kaiser
was
Reich.
just making a joke because of how many paratrooping operations during World War II actually failed miserably.
Where is our resident map game player when you need him?
Where is Constantine? Oh, Constantine's at work. That's right.
Yeah.
Imagine working.
Imagine not spending all your time playing Hoi 4. I will say the paratroopers aren't as good as they used to be. I was trying to do a the Habsburg achievement, Horthy and the Habsburg Prince or whatever in base Hoi 4. Worst mistake of my life. The strategy involved for the war with Romania just dropping a bunch of single little units on all of the victory points in in Romania, but unfortunately the Romanians had to have stupid troops in Bucharest, and so that whole operation failed.
We would like to getting back to a little bit of a serious note here. We would like to extend our deepest gratitude to the men and women in our armed forces, especially those veterans who are still with us that are part of that generation that fought in World War II.
There
We'd like
aren't
to
a lot of them left.
I did actually see a guy with a World War II veteran cap 2 days no yesterday, it's Friday today, so yeah, yesterday morning. I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but I was like, yeah, because it reminded me, because like when we were all young, because like all of us are like late teens, early, late teens, 20s. Like I
speak for
remember seeing,
yourself.
huh? Well, okay. Like I'm sure you guys remember it too. Like I would see World War II veterans all the time, at Myers or whatever. And then of course, watching documentaries, they're a lot younger. It's just so weird seeing like people encapsulated in a moment of time after the fact. Like I mean, because like seeing a bunch of 20 something guys and M1 helmets with M1 rifles and with M1 bayonets. Actually, I don't know what the bayonet number was, but
I
I mean, like
prefer was
that makes
also M1 because the U.S. for some reason named everything M1 except for the Sherman, which was the M4.
yeah. We don't talk about the actual M1 tank. No, I don't know. M1 Abrams different. No, I'm joking. Anyways, so the thing is though that that's easy to contextualize because we're talking about the war, but it's so weird seeing like watching documentaries. Like I loved as a kid the Battle 360 USS Enterprise documentary series, and looking back, it's probably very oversimplistic and inaccurate representation of the Pacific War because it's the History Channel and it was doing it for dramatic effect or whatever, and focusing the entire war just around USS Enterprise, which if you're gonna do it around anything, it'd be USS Enterprise. But it's just so weird, like because like they still seem. I mean, like obviously all the veterans there are old, but they look like late 60s, early 70s. They don't look, or I guess 80s, But and then you see them. You see a World War II veteran now, and he just looks frail. Like it's so they're so and I guess this is another thing that Charles Colm said. Like he argued that there's like a specific year that is your normal. For me, I guess it may be 2007 because like just looking back on like what I was like seeing and what was going around, it's just so it just feels so right. Like the sort of like advertisements I saw at the beginning of DVDs. That's how you know your consumer's culturist when your culture's consumerist because your fondest memories are of adverts.
Your consumerist culture, careful, man. You don't want your consumerists to become cultured.
We really don't. Then they
Hmm.
might stop buying our products.
Indeed.
No, I mean I don't know. I hate to monopolize.
How
I mean
dare
that's
the
a lie.
plebes develop standards?
Consume product, then get ready to consume next product. No, I mean I don't know, but does anyone else feel like weird when you see like a World War II veteran? Because like I'm not alone in this, right? Like you just think of World War II veterans as like 70 somethings, right?
I'm I can't personally say that because when I think of World War II veterans, my great grandpa comes to mind, and unfortunately, he died before I was born. So it's like I've never really been in close proximity to an actual World War II veteran personally.
Yeah,
I mean, my other great grandpa was a Korean vet. But
both of my grandparents, both of my grandfathers on both sides of the family, obviously, were in the army during Korea. My grandpa's unit was. I've heard two different versions of the story. One version is my maternal grandfather was going to be sent over, but then there was an administrative error and some other unit got sent over. The other was he had a senator's son in his outfit, so he wasn't sent over. Um, but my fraternal grandfather, he actually was sent over to Korea. Some guy, I was gonna say something, but some guy accidentally tested the wrong engine. He got flown through the engine. They were gonna give him a Purple Heart, but he's like, well, it wasn't enemy action, so no. uh, so yeah, cool dude.
I know my grandpa dodged Vietnam a certain way. He had finished basic training and everything, and then I think some kind of motor accident happened, and he ended up rolling a Jeep or being in a Jeep that got rolled, and so that saved him from combat duty.
Yeah, it's weird how that turns out. I mean, it's so weird because like a lot of the people I talk to, Vietnam veterans are getting thin on the ground. I mean, like I was in my job, I work at a museum, and I was talking with one, and he was pointing out to his grandson, the shells, and we were talking, and he said that, and these were 76 millimeter shells for a World War II era thing. He said, yeah, we had much bigger ones, and we would, and the last case that we fired, we cut up the shells and used the bottom for ashtrays before we got out of Vietnam. I mean, it's those kinds of stories that we're gonna like be losing in a little while.
Well, and it's always interesting though, like of wars that we did film, especially Vietnam, just like how human, like we always look at old photos, but it's hard to imagine those people in the photos, as people like us, people who, have fun, like, and do funny things. One of the funniest examples of that is a story where a ship lit up all of its guns on a single North Korean shore battery being run by like 3 farmers. And then the ship next to it just went by and said, "Watch your temper." And
Yeah.
it's like, it's hilarious.
Well, that's one thing. My great grandfather was drafted. I'm not sure if it was World War II or Korean. But he was drafted and he wasn't allowed to go over because of black lung from the coal mines back down in Appalachia. So
I
that's one
know.
thing. That's one thing I'm happy about with the coal mines.
You know, my great grandpa, on my mom's side, my maternal great grandpa, the one that went to Korea. I sort of wish I got to hear some of his Korean stories before he died, but judging by what my mother said, he never really talked about the war with anyone. And it's not like he suffered from PTSD, at least that I know of, or anything like that. It's just that, he never really cared either way about his military service, and it was just, I don't know. I feel like I've missed something, but according to everyone in my family, I didn't because he just never cared to talk about it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, for my fraternal grandpa died when I was 11, so it's not like I really had a chance to ask him any. 11 months old, sorry. So it's not like I had a chance to ask him anything. But my maternal grandfather, he never. I mean, I don't remember him ever telling me anything about Korea. And now that I think about it, besides the whole he was in the Army Corps of Engineers, but besides the whole story with his unit going over, I don't remember anyone telling me any stories. I mean, I was only in 4th grade when he died, so it's not really. I don't know. My memories of him are all of like watching the Lawrence Welk show.
Now, My
Well,
I'm
not
sorry.
all, but
My paternal great grandfather, I have a little bit more from his stint in World War II. Of course, he died before I was born, but we have his Navy bag, we have the military machete he was issued, and we know what ship he was on because his name is on the memorial for the ship, that being the USS Indianapolis. And that's the main story we have, is that my grandpa did 3 days in the middle of the Pacific Ocean fighting sharks. And that probably tells you a little bit about my family's history with anger issues.
yeah, it's so
Right.
the well, that's another thing too. Like the guy in Jaws, because like Jaws was like what 1977 or something. It's like he's only in his like 50s. The Indianapolis veteran. It's like I don't know why I keep harping on this, but it's just so weird. Like seeing different people at different like periods of time, right? Like I'm not the only one who thinks that. Like this weird disconnect that you feel with time, right? Like I'm not the only one. Please tell me I'm not crazy.
Speaking of
Oh, go ahead, Victor.
speaking of time, if any of us want to get up in time to watch the coronation, we might want to hit the hay soon.
Oh, yeah. Well, if it starts at 5, you're already too late for a full 8 hours. So, yeah.
Have
Does anyone
no
have any?
fear, those of you who are on Eastern Time, it starts at 6.
Well, it will take you more than an hour to fall asleep. So, um,
That's why we have coffee.
a cup of coffee in the morning. Okay. So does anyone have any questions, concerns, flying accusations?
How about we use that prayer that we used last week?
Prayer we used last week. Okay, let me.
I'll give Will a chance to pull it up. Well, I say, if you would like to wonder where what's his face went?
Constantine.
No,
Koshin? Krieger?
Koshin and Krieger.
Well,
Then
we did
you
on that
can,
day too.
if you would like to keep track of who exactly is on the stage at any given time, then you can join us live on Monarchist Minute by joining our Discord server, link in the description below. If you would like to follow us on a company that has gotten rid of 90% of its staff, then you can follow us on Twitter, link
Link
in the
in the
description
description
below.
below.
If you would like to help me come up with a solid plan for doing the introduction and closing of a show rather than just keep waffling on, then you can find our email, I guess, on our website. Link
Link
in the
In the
description
description
below.
below.
If you would like to see what other stuff I just copy paste from week to week, well, it's not really kind of as copy paste from week to week, then you can look down in the link in the description below to find all that stuff.
Below.
Will, do you have the?
Yes, I have the prayer.
Okay.
Y'all bow your heads now. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. O God, to whom every human power is subject, grant to you, your servant, Charles III, success in the exercise of his high office, so that, always revering you and striving to please you, he may constantly secure and preserve for the people entrusted to his care the freedom that comes from civil peace. Through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in unity of the Holy Spirit, God, forever and ever. Amen.
Man.
Amen.
Right.
All right. Until let's do alternate words. Until.
let's not alternate words, but when we come back to you next week, we will have the coronation post-game show, plus maybe a topic about Italy.
Really? Cool. I didn't know that. Okay, well, until next week, may God bless you, may God bless the United States of America.